The weekly meeting of the Press Club is presented as a community service of Louisiana Public Broadcasting.
Roughly 4 years ago, when I was elected to the East Baton Rouge Parish School Board, my mother taught me a valuable lesson in sharing. Son, you can do as much reform or initiate as many reform opportunities as you like, but if nobody knows what you're doing, it's all for naught. The lesson learned from that is the press are the most powerful people in the state of Louisiana. So it is a pleasure to be among the powerful here today at the Press Club of Baton Rouge, and I sincerely thank you for having me. We are really excited about all that is going on now at the Louisiana Workforce Commission. We are in the process, last week as well as this week, of literally going around our entire state on part of a regional business plan update, a tour providing updates to the various labor market regions on what we're doing, the initiatives that we have implemented since 2008 with the reform legislation that took place. It was certainly much more than just a change in name or a change in culture and a change in attitude. And we also are excited about some of the very proactive measures we have taken in light of the obvious economic difficulties that are facing our nation, but particularly in a localized manner, the state of Louisiana. So today, by way of outline, if you will allow me, I want to visit with you sort of about where we've been, about where we are, and about where we're going. In terms of a visual, I spent about a decade or so in trial practice as a lawyer, so I'm very big on visuals. Visuals to me are much more effective than words. I want to give you a visual, if you will, of a diamond, a triangle. At the center of that diamond is glue, and that glue is government. But from my perspective, the entity in government is the Workforce Commission. On one side of that diamond, you have what I believe is the most powerful force in Louisiana in terms of driving the economy, and that is obviously the business sector. And more particularly, when you talk about moving an economy forward, you talk about small businesses. So at one end of the triangle, if you will, is business, and on the opposite end is a workforce, a labor force, individuals throughout our state, citizens that have capacity to fill jobs. We in the center consider ourselves the glue as government, again at the Workforce Commission, because we pride ourselves in bringing businesses to people and people to jobs. More so than just that triangular visual, though, I want to talk about the diversity that is rich in Louisiana. And as a native of South Louisiana, my favorite food is gumbo. So I want you all to think about, at the center of that triangle, picture, if you will, a pot of gumbo. And if you're going to make good gumbo, after you finish with the roux, got to start with the roux, right? After the roux, you put in very rich ingredients. Those ingredients include opportunities for individuals who traditionally have been left out of the labor market, individuals who have been left out of the labor force. In other words, if by way of tax incentives, by way of work opportunity tax credits, we call them, we can encourage those businesses to hire individuals who may have had time incarcerated in the past, individuals like myself who are veterans of our armed forces, individuals who are transitioning from government subsidy programs to help them get by on a week-to-week basis. We literally have what we call work opportunity tax credits to add to the rich diversity of that gumbo. When you talk about the employers, those that will employ individuals in our state, the vast majority of businesses in Louisiana are small businesses that we encourage to partner with us for training programs. I'm going to talk a little bit about our training programs with sort of an overview of the agency. One size doesn't fit all in terms of preparation for the workforce. One size doesn't fit all in terms of improving the efficiency of an individual once he or she is in the workforce. So another thing we pride ourselves on doing is assisting individuals throughout the state at what we call one-stops. We affectionately call them one-stops. In a previous culture, they were known as the unemployment offices. In this culture, we affectionately refer to them as one-stops, but more importantly as business and career solution centers. So when you put that hybrid together, when you put all of that into the gumbo, which is at the center, again, of that triangular relationship, I believe that is how you make Louisiana's economy grow. let me talk for a minute about where we are economically in terms of the national picture and how that affects Louisiana. Over the past 3 to 4 years, 61% of the funding, and most of our funding at the Workforce Commission is federal, 61% of our funding has been almost eliminated. It's decreased in a very dramatic fashion. So when you think about that in mathematical terms, if you will, remember the x-axes and so forth, there is one line that can depict a decrease in fiscal allocation from the federal government, but at the same time, with the rampant rates of unemployment that have existed, obviously in recent years and more particularly in recent months, there is an increase in individuals who need the services that we perform. So it sort of makes an X, if you will, and where we are at the Workforce Commission, X marks the spot. We're doing a lot more with a lot less. We're moving forward with a reform-oriented agenda, and those are some of the things I want to talk with you about today. GUI is a term I want to leave with you. I have a 6-year-old daughter who makes me think about affectionate terms. GUI, G-U-I. That's what we do at the Workforce Commission, and that is how we attempt to service that triangular relationship I talked about. G, growing. We like to grow the workforce in Louisiana. U, we want to understand the current market environment, and by way of occupational forecasting, we want to anticipate what the market will be in years to come. We have some pretty sophisticated occupational forecasting that I'm going to talk about in a moment. And I, we want to invest and we want to improve the current workforce environment. We do that in a very particularized fashion. Within our agency, there is the Office of Workforce Development, wonderful training programs, and I'm going to address them. First, the G, again, growing. Let's imagine for a moment, we're here in Baton Rouge, let's imagine we are in Tiger Stadium on a Saturday night and LSU is playing somebody that they're not going to beat 51-0, right? Okay, so let's imagine, for example, for the terms of a graphic illustration, one of our favorite opponents, let's imagine LSU is playing Florida, and Florida's mascot, the Gators. When I think about the Florida fans, they come in and they do these numbers, right? Gator bait, gator bait, gator bait, okay. This image is literally what we have in Louisiana and what we will have in years to come. And what it represents, the axis, if you will, that's on the top, it represents market demand, where employers need individuals who can fill high competency jobs. It's a growing market. It's a very, very growing axis. It's increasing. Where we are on the opposite end, and what makes that gator mouth open, is the lack, unfortunately, the lack of qualified workers in our state. And what we want to do at the Workforce Commission is the same thing LSU would want to do when the Florida fans come in there and doing this stuff. We want to close that puppy up, right? We want to close that alligator's mouth up. So in an attempt to grow the workforce, we obviously have got to understand market trends, but we try to do all we can by qualified training programs to credential individuals to ensure they have the appropriate training to fill those high-quality jobs. Now, here is bad news, but here also is an opportunity. We predict, as part of the market forecasting, we predict that on average 20,000 new jobs, we already are at this point, right? 20,000 new jobs will be created each year going forward until about 2018. And the reason for that are market trends and new developments, technological advancements and so forth, moving away from old practices and old industries and moving forward with tech-savvy industries. So we anticipate each year roughly 20,000 new jobs will be created in Louisiana based on new market trends. In addition to that 20,000, we also predict that by rate of natural attrition, baby boomers we call them, individuals who say it has been good, it's been great, I'm going into retirement now. By way of that natural attrition, roughly 45,000 jobs will be opened, not created, but opened in Louisiana, again going forward to 2018. That presents a real challenge, going back to that graph of the alligator with his mouth open. So what we want to do at the State Workforce Commission, in order to remedy that situation, in order to bring that downward axis up and close the gator's mouth, if you will, we want to ensure we are growing our workforce. U now. Let me talk about the U in GUI. The U is to understand market trends.